you curious about these 1904 Squirrel Tail Pastries and 1904 breakfast recipes? Well, join me in my kitchen as we explore how to make these wonderful pastries and more.
Quite moist.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
All right, we're gonna get started on our 1904 breakfast, and we're making Squirrel's Tails from this presidential cookbook. Wait until the end to find out more about this amazing cookbook. We'll have a cookbook chat, but in the meantime, let's get going on our dough for this recipe. So we have a quart of flour, which means 4 cups. And you have to kind of parse these recipes out a little bit. But I'm making my best guesses because it says a little salt and it doesn't say how much. So I'm gonna add 4 of these little things, which is like a teaspoon, which I think should work. It's a little bit of an experiment because they are not very specific, but I think this should work with all of my pastry experience. So it says a piece of butter the size of an egg. I just love these measurements. So I have 4 tablespoons of cold butter cut up. So what we're gonna do is rub this into the flour by hand. This is my favorite method. And I am really excited about these 1904 recipes. My mom gave me this book for Mother's Day. Thank you, Mom. It is amazing. I just love reading it. The paper is very delicate. I will be showing you more details of that in the book chat at the end. I always do those book chats. And make sure to stick around towards the end because we're gonna have a book chat and also a couple glimpses of herbs and things in the garden, and also making a nice bouquet for the table. So those are kind of little bonuses for all of you that love all the little details of setting up these vintage breakfast, dinner, and lunch sessions, or parties, as I like to say. So stick around for those. But in the meantime, we're going to be making these squirrel's tails and an herb omelet. So that is the menu today, along with some fresh berries from the garden. It should be a lovely breakfast that we'll actually be eating for dinner. So here we are. This is what the pastry looks like. And I'm going to be back in just a moment. I got to wash my hands. And then we'll continue with the recipe. All right, we're back. We're gonna be adding the wet ingredients to this flour, butter, and salt mixture. So it said a half a cake of yeast, but we don't really use cake yeast anymore. So I put 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast in about a half cup of warm water, and you can see it's nice and bubbly. So we're gonna be adding this to the flour. And then it says enough warm milk to make a soft dough. So I'm just gonna add little by little, a little bit, and see how much we need. I have probably a half cup there, but I don't want to overdo it. And it also says do not spare the kneading. So it sounds like we need to knead this well. Need to knead it well. Let me know if you love to make pastry and doughs and breads by hand like this. I really enjoy it. So we might need all of this. You know, I'm just gonna throw all of that in there. We may need more, but I am not sure. Again, I don't want to make it too soggy. So let's stir this up a little bit. And yeah, it looks like, well, I might need just a little bit more. So I'm gonna be right back. I'm just gonna heat up a tiny bit of milk in the microwave, not 1904 equipment, and then we'll be back to knead this dough. All right, let's just add a tiny bit more milk here. I wanna make sure that this dough is hydrated enough and nice and soft, but again, not too hydrated. So you have to kind of eyeball this sort of thing, especially when they do not give you really, really specific instructions. So I'm gonna just add all of that. Okay. So it says, do not spare the kneading. So we are going to get it out on this rubber mat with some flour and get this kneading. This is one of my favorite parts because I find it really relaxing. I don't know about you. Let me know in the comments below if you like to knead dough. I think this is awesome. So what we're gonna do is get this kneaded. Then I'm gonna let it rise. It just says let rise. It doesn't say a time, but I'm pretty used to letting these things rise for about an hour, and then we're gonna shape it into the squirrel tails, which I'm really excited about. And then let it rise a little bit more before we bake it. And I'll go into more details and you'll see how to do that in a moment when we come back. But let's get this nice and kneaded. And I'm excited to head outside today to get my fresh herbs from the garden for the omelets and to get lots of fresh roses for my table arrangement. It's going to be beautiful for our breakfast. Let me know if you are growing any herbs or veggies or fruits or flowers this spring and summer, if it's that season where you are. I know I always have spring fever, and whenever it's nice outside, love to be out there. So this will be a great break for me to go outside while I'm waiting for this to rise. And in the summer, you can just rise your dough outside because it's really quick since it's so hot, but not so great for pastry, I've found out. You want to be a little careful with that because making croissants on a hot day is not great. Especially when you don't have air conditioning, like we don't have it here in our house. So it heats up the butter a little too much. All right, so here is our dough. It looks nice and smooth. Actually, I might just a tiny bit more so it's smooth on the top. Okay, so what we're gonna do is put it back in this bowl, and we're gonna put a clean towel over this, and we're gonna say sweet dreams. Let it have a little nap for an hour, and we'll be back to shape this beautiful dough. All right, we are back about it's been about an hour, and this has risen quite a bit. As you can see, it's a lot bigger. So what we need to do now is add in 2 beaten egg whites. So they're at the stiff peak stage here. I already beat those up just now. And we're gonna add this into the dough. I might need to use my hands to sort of work this in, but it's gonna be a little bit tricky here. Here we go. Well, anyway, we're gonna mix this in, and then we're supposed to, yeah, I might need this by hand, but anyway, we're supposed to let this rise a little bit more. So what I'm gonna do is, it doesn't say the time, but I'm just gonna work this in by hand. Anyway, we're gonna let this rise for at least another half hour. This is a little bit sticky, that's all right. I might add a tiny bit of flour so it's not as sticky. Yeah, we're gonna let this rise at least a half an hour before we roll it out and do our shaping. So let's get this worked in. Boy, I don't think I've ever worked in egg whites to a pastry dough before. This is quite interesting. I'm really, really curious about this recipe. So yeah, this is really interesting. Let me know if you've ever done a recipe like this. I love recreating old vintage recipes, especially I think this is one of the oldest I've ever done from 1904, these Squirrel's Tails. So yeah, I think it's okay to add in a little bit more flour to make this not quite as sticky. I want to get this rolled back into a ball again. Here we are, without adding way too much flour. Okay, I'm just gonna allow it to be a little bit sticky here. And we will cover this up and get it rising again for at least a half an hour before we do our shaping. I'll see you in a moment. All right, we are back about a half hour later, and you can see that the dough has risen again. It's nice and poofy. So we are going to be rolling it out. But first we're going to make the so-called butter and sugar sauce, air quotes, because I think it's going to be a little more like a paste that we spread on, kind of like butter, cinnamon, sugar sort of stuff with cinnamon rolls, but this is called a sauce for some reason. So I'm just taking this half cup of salted butter that's been softened with a cup of sugar. And pardon me, I think I'm going to use my hands with this because I think it's going to take forever with the spoon. So let's make our sugar and butter sauce, as they call it. And then we're going to be rolling out the dough and creating some strips of dough to form our cute little squirrel's tails. And right now I have the oven heating to 400. I thought I would start doing that before we let these rise for the last time, because it says hot oven, and that's what I'm going with, is 400 degrees. So we're doing our best guesswork here along the way in this pastry journey from 1904. Let me know in the comments how you like these recipes so far. So after these squirrel tails are done, we're gonna make our second and final dish, which will be herb omelets. It's gonna be a nice puffy omelet with fresh herbs from the garden, so that is coming up. Then we will have our tablescape, book chat, and some more bonus sections from the garden. So yay, that's coming up. Okay, so here's our butter and sugar sauce. As you can see, it's nice and spreadable. So I'm gonna be back in just a moment to roll these out. Let me wash my hands. So now we are going to be rolling out this dough. It says to roll it thin. So it doesn't say exactly how much, but we know that we want strips that are an 1.5 inches wide. So I'm going to try to sort of form a rectangle out of this first before we roll it out. It's not going to be perfect, but more or less like that. And then we want strips that are 1.5 inches wide and then about 6 inches long. So let's get this rolled out here. I love making pastry dough. What about you? My favorite rolling pin is this French rolling pin. It's nice and simple, and I think the taper really helps it roll well. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite rolling pin is to use. Okay, we're gonna try to get this nice and thin so we have lots of layers of that butter sauce and butter sugar sauce. I'm really excited about these. And I'm also hoping to share, we have a very special squirrel in our yard that sometimes we can get him to come up on the deck for some walnuts. So no squirrels were harmed in the making of these squirrel tails, but hopefully he'll come by so I can show you how cute he is. Okay, let me know in the comments down below if you love squirrels or if you prefer to feed the birds. We actually feed both. And so, yeah, we love the critters in the yard. Okay, so that's looking nice. It is fairly thin. We want to probably get it to about 1/4 inch. Okay. So I'm going to use my measuring tape here to get kind of a sense of what we're going for. I just use a regular measuring tape here. So 1.5 inches. I'm going to just kind of make some marks here. 1. So we'll just keep marking along and get these ready to be cut out. There we are. Okay, so I'm gonna use this to sort of score the strips, but I will be cutting them properly in just a moment. We want them to be about 6 inches long. These are not perfectly done, but that's okay. I just want to get kind of some lines here. Oh, whoops. That's okay. And this dough smells really good. It reminds me of like a croissant dough or something. Okay. So let's get one of these strips figured out here so I can show you what this looks like. And we're gonna do one on camera and then the rest I will do off camera. But let's see how much 6 inches is. So I wanna cut off the edge of this one and then we'll go 6 inches. 1, 2, so down to 12. Okay, so there's 2 strips. I love just using a regular measuring tape. Let me know what you use to measure in the kitchen. Okay, so we're gonna spread on. I'll see if it's soft enough to use this, but it's okay to use your hands too. Clean hands, of course. So we're gonna spread this on here and then roll it up like a little tail. So cute. I just love it when the squirrels come up for walnuts or peanuts, and sometimes they bury some of them. They're very funny. We also have corn cobs for them, so we pretty much spoil all the backyard critters. Let me know if you are the same or love to watch the birds. We also have the hummingbird feeder too. Okay, so we're gonna roll this up. Here we are. Ooh, isn't that cute? Okay, so I assume that I'm just gonna set it on the tray like this. Okay. So I'm gonna complete all of these and then we're gonna let them rise for another half hour and then we'll be baking them. Yum. Okay, we'll be back when they're all risen. I wanted to show you all of these all rolled up. I'm going to be letting them rise for another half an hour, but I love how they really do look like little tails. How cute is that? Anyways, I'll show you before they go in the oven when they're a little more puffed up. So these are what the squirrel tails look like after they have risen for about a half hour after we shake them. So they're a lot puffier and they're ready to go in the oven. So I'm gonna try baking these at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes, and then we'll see how much longer they need. See you when they're out of the oven. So the squirrel tails just came out of the oven. Look how adorable they are. I love how the tails sort of swirl. And you can see that some of the sugar butter mixture melted out, but it's still gonna be super delicious. And I can't wait to see the family's opinion on these with our 1904 breakfast. So take a look at the yummy, sugary, buttery bits here. And I will see you next for making our herb omelet. All right, we are ready to make our herb omelet. We'll make the plain omelet, but we're going to add some herbs from the garden. So we have some chives, rosemary, and thyme. So let's get started. We have 4 egg yolks, basically 4 eggs separated, but they want you to mix these really well. And then we're gonna put them into this larger bowl here. And to that, we're adding 4 tablespoons of milk. And then it says salt and pepper. So I'll just add about 3 of these little spoons here. And then some pepper. And right now we're gonna add the herbs to this mixture. Let me know if you grow fresh herbs in your garden or if you love fresh herbs, and which ones are your favorites. I would love to know in the comments down below. I love all kinds of herbs, especially rosemary and thyme. I'd have to say those are a couple of my favorites, but I also really love sage, especially in stuffing at Thanksgiving time. So doesn't that look lovely? Ooh. That's gonna taste really good with all those herbs. So now we're just gonna fold in these beaten egg whites really well. So this is gonna be a nice puffy omelet. These are really fun to make. Let me know in the comments if you've ever made one of these. I've noticed in the vintage cookbooks, these are very popular to make this way. And they're a nice way to make kind of a bigger omelet for 2 or 3 people. So this will be perfect to go with our 1904 breakfast. Okay, so we have that mixture. Now it says to have some butter about the size of an egg. So I have about 3½ tablespoons of butter, and we're gonna heat that up on the stove here. And I'm gonna come back when that is sizzling just a little bit and we'll get our omelet going. All right, so this is sizzling. So we are ready to add our egg mixture in here. And isn't that beautiful? It says to kind of tilt it little by little to get that formed in there to make sure that it is even. I kind of turned down the temperature a little bit because I want it to evenly cook, but I don't want it to over brown on the bottom. So it says to kind of tilt it here and there. We're gonna do that. And it seems to, because of all that lovely butter, it's not sticking to the bottom. It's looking quite nice. So let me feel around it with this spatula here. We want to let it cook enough on the bottom. Make sure it is cooked through, but not overdone. That's always the challenge with these omelets, right? But I think those herbs, oh, they're already smelling amazing. So I'm gonna let that be just for a second here. And I'm gonna come back when it's ready to flip. Okay, it is not perfect. It's sort of rolled a little bit, but it is a lovely golden brown and it is so puffy. You can see how huge this is. So I'm gonna try to carefully move it onto this platter here, which is always a challenge, but ooh, I think we're gonna do it. Okay. Lovely. It's amazing how much that puffs up. Look how pretty that looks. And I'm just gonna take a towel and clean up this part here. But we are going to garnish this with some fresh herb sprigs. Look how pretty. We're gonna get this on the table and I'll show you the tablescape, and then we will have the family tasting of our 1904 breakfast. Here is our lovely tablescape and 1904 breakfast. We have a beautiful rose centerpiece that I made from the garden. We have our herb omelet and our Squirrel Tail Pastries and some beautiful strawberries from the garden. We're here with the family to try the 1904 breakfast. So our featured recipes, we have Squirrel Tail Pastries and fresh herb omelet.
Oh.
And some strawberries from the garden.
Are they cheesy?
No.
Oh, okay. They're like,
Help yourself.
What are they then?
So it's basically butter and sugar for the filling.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Smells nice.
And then a fresh herb omelet. There's rosemary, lemon thyme, and fresh chives.
Looks fresh.
Thank you. Let's try the squirrel tail.
Yeah.
It's actually quite nice. It looks like it'd be really dry, but it's actually quite moist.
You're right.
Wow. I gotta try more of the middle. Oh.
It's kind of like a diet cinnamon roll or something.
Yeah, not as gooey, but it's still got.
You're right. It's not gooey like a cinnamon roll, but it has a nice flavor.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh,
I like that crunchy sugar in the center.
This is very fluffy.
Yes,
What's
it's
going
like
on
well, it's got egg whites folded in, so.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's have a taste.
19 what?
1904.
Okay, 1904. You're not usually an omelet fan, are you?
There's no cheese in it.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't had a ton of omelets, but this is good.
What herbs are in it?
It is chives, rosemary, and lemon thyme.
We're not listening to the opening monologue.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's okay. I basically forgot as well. This is delicious, though.
Wow,
I don't
thank you.
approved.
I'm so glad. I love
It's so
the
fluffy.
fresh herb.
It almost tastes like a souffle.
Yeah, it really is
It's-
souffle-like.
It's very light.
I think the butter on the bottom really adds a lot of yummy flavor.
This is great.
Thank you.
Very nice. I like this.
Big hit. Thanks, guys. Bye. Welcome to the book chat for this 1904 breakfast video. We are talking about Presidential Cookbook, adapted from the White House Cookbook. This is from 1904. It is a huge treasure. My mom gave this to me for Mother's Day, and it has some photos of the first ladies, like Edith Carew Roosevelt. Lovely. Look at that beautiful typesetting there. As you can see, the pages are really old. The paper is very delicate. You can even see kind of the fibers in it, but I love all the sections of this book. This one actually teaches you how to butcher or cut up different pieces of meat. So very detailed. All of the recipes are kind of in paragraph form, and there are some things you have to sort of interpret here, but that's part of the fun, right? So let me know if you love to read or cook from any of these vintage books. And if you do, please make sure to subscribe to my channel because I have weekly videos out of books like these. We're gonna head to the eggs section. This is where we find, we use the plain omelet recipe and then adapt it to the omelet of herbs. So that's where I got the recipe for that. And then we have the Squirrel's Tails in the bread, biscuits, muffins section. One thing I want to point out here is just the beautiful titles. Look at that typeface there. This one is for coffee, tea, and beverages. What I thought was interesting here is they even teach you how to make wine. So making your own wine, like blackberry wine, grape wine, which is the typical, of course. Even Florida orange wine, which I had never heard of. So you actually use orange juice there. Really interesting. Honey wine, something called cherry bounce. So they're very thorough in all the different kinds of recipes. There's even a hominy drink in here. So this section is for the sick. And I found this really interesting. Just some kind of plain things like oatmeal, gruel, some different beverages, remedies in the back. So really fascinating stuff. This is an absolute treasure of a book. And let me know in the comments if you'd love to see more recipes from this book. And I have a couple more little bonus sections for you in this video of me in the garden and creating the rose arrangement for the table. So stay tuned for those if those interest you. And I will say I appreciate you so much here. Thank you for being here. You really matter and I appreciate you. So have a wonderful day. Stick around for the garden parts if you would like. And I will see you next week. Hey, welcome to this bonus segment and welcome to my garden. I am here getting some fresh herbs for the herb omelet. So I just have my shears here and I'm going to get some of these chives here. I'm just gonna snip a few off and then we'll move on to the next herbs. Let me know in the comments down below if you love to grow herbs. As you can see, I let mine flower just because the bees love them and it doesn't seem to hurt anything. And I brought a glass of water here with me to put these in so that they stay fresh because I'll be making the omelet in a little bit. And yeah, look at these beautiful chives from the garden. Let me know if you're growing any herbs out in your garden. So I'll see you at the next herb in this next little bonus segment. All right, here we are in another part of the garden and I'm bringing my glass along to get more herbs. So I have some lemon thyme here growing in this pot. So I'm just gonna clip off a little bit of this and stick it in the water. I like to keep my shears inside and I take them out almost every day to kind of trim back things and gather things. But this way they won't rust because I had a terrible time with some rusting ones once and I thought I better take good care of these so that they don't rust. And here I have my giant rosemary. It keeps on growing, but I let it grow and bloom because the bees love it again. So you can see how fresh and lovely this is. And I'm just gonna gather a little bit. If I gather more and more things, then I can figure out what works best in the omelet. So here's our herb bouquet. I will see you in the final bonus segment for making my rose bouquet. So we're gonna make a beautiful rose bouquet from the garden. I have my vase full of water here, and I've gathered 3 different kinds of flowers, and I have my trusty shears here. Now these are some really fragrant roses from the garden. You can see how pretty they are. I like to take the leaves off just because it keeps the bouquet fresher, and I like to see how tall they are. Usually I trim them diagonally, that way they can drink in the water better. Again, take off all the leaves, diagonal cut, and then we keep going around. Sometimes I take off some of the outer petals because they look a little worse for wear, and we want our bouquet to look really pretty, so we want to take those off. Again, diagonal cut. We want them to sit down in there as best we can. Let me know in the comments down below if you like to make bouquets from your garden. It's super, super fun and satisfying to make these, and it makes your house look pretty and smell nice, and it doesn't cost you anything after you've grown the plant, so that's another bonus. So you can see that this would be a complete bouquet, but I'm going to add some things so it looks pretty on its own. You can see some of these are a little more bloomed out than others, and that's perfectly okay. So that looks really pretty. I have these purple flowers. I cannot remember what this is, but it's a lovely perennial. I'm gonna chop that down a little bit and take off these spent parts and a little bit down, but it's kind of fun to have something sticking out a little bit. Let me know what styles of bouquets you like, and definitely give a thumbs up to this video if you enjoyed the cooking and all the prep for the lovely breakfast from 1904. And make sure to subscribe for my weekly live videos of vintage recipes and my weekly long form videos, as well as a few little shorts here and there. I would love to have you here in the vintage cookbook nerd community. This looks really cute. I might make these a little shorter, but we'll see. This is a very organic process, pun intended, with organic flowers. But it's fun to see what looks nice. We can always change our minds very quickly. Oh, I'm gonna need to stand up for a second. All right, so I have, for the final piece, we have some mint, and I'm gonna tuck this in here because it adds a nice fragrance and some greenery. I think it's fun to kind of mix flowers and herbs together, and I just kind of take the bottom leaves off so they're not obstructing too much. And I like to always have odd numbers because that adds to the symmetry of the bouquet. So I think this is looking quite nice. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Yay! Okay, we're ready for our table centerpiece. So thank you so much for joining me today. Be sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I will see you next time. Bye!